On a mission to leave every person, animal, plant, and other being my guest meets better off than before they met her, Dawn Phoenix is here to declare that no mistakes or failures in life actually exist. They are all learning experiences. We have everything we need right inside of us. The inner work is our key to evolution and ascension. Dawn teaches adventurous creatives to connect with their emotional power, which transforms them and the relationships with humans and non-humans in their lives. As a certified clinical hypnotherapist, also a dolphin energy healing practitioner, intuitive interspecies communicator, channel, musician, and best-selling author, and with a master of teaching, Dawn guides you to taking action from a place of balance so you can manifest successful outcomes that are aligned with your goals. I am so glad that you are all here to join us on Awaken and Ascend. My name is Jennifer Regular, and I am so excited to welcome you, Dawn, all the way from Ohio today.
Thank you, Jennifer, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yay, so fun. You know, just before we got this podcast set up here, I was listening to your music that you've created, Celestial Waters, and wow, it was so beautiful, so moving, so relaxing and sedating and soothing, and yet it felt very grounding too, you know? And I'm so happy to be able to have those kind of experiences, which I know you bring to a lot of people in the world, into everyone that you basically come across, human and non-human, and so on. And I'm curious what actually lit your path? What got you moving in this direction?
Interestingly enough, it was death. And when I say death, I mean it in the terms of the concept of death and also in the concept of transformation, because that's what death really is. I was in 2014 going with a friend to have his dog who had cancer euthanized. And while I was there with him, she was a Great Pyrenees, so she was pretty big, and they had her up on a table. And I had no idea about the spiritual world, about anything maybe beyond hearing about yoga. I didn't meditate. I didn't have any idea of the stuff, that exists in this realm where I now swim quite easily. And so I went with him, and I was petting the back of her head, and I just had my hand on the back of her head and her neck. And I saw the vet give her the shot that makes her go to sleep. And that's the last thing I remember seeing. My eyes closed, and I just felt this incredible surge of warmth and just vibrant energy just come in at about the table height where she was, go up through my body and out my head. And I just remember my thought was, it was just this beautiful golden ball of light. And my thought was, how does something so huge fit into a body so small?
Mm-hmm.
And later on, I learned when I was in my animal communication course, that was her giving me the experience of what it was like for her soul to leave her body and return home. Because my greatest fear in life when I was a child was a paralyzing fear of death.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was just something that we could just get shut up in a box and there's nothing after that. And there was something inside of me, and it was my intuition, but I didn't know it at the time. My intuition was telling me that is wrong. And I didn't know that that's what it was telling me. All I knew is that I feared that, and it just felt like it was wrong to me, but I didn't know why.
Mm.
And so years later, I'm in my late 30s, 38 maybe, I get this experience. And after this happened, I didn't fear death anymore. It was immediate, because I understood on an experiential level the love that is there when we leave our bodies. And I'm not saying that that has to be everybody's truth, but for me, that was the truth and the experience that I needed to have to move me onto my path. Because then I started doing research and saying, gee, there's a lot more out there than I think there is. And so I got started in energy medicine work and animal communication and going into all of the things that I do now, hypnotherapy, dolphin energy healing. And so that was Dolly, was her name. And she is the one who got me started on my path.
Cheers, Dolly.
Dolly.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And to be able to open up to the possibilities, right, of what life could be and what life is and how transformative these experiences can be and our concepts of them, like our perceptions of reality, of what we think it is or who we think we are, right? Or who we think we should be. And you mentioned about how this experience sets you on your path. Prior to that, Dawn, how did you know that the path that you were on actually wasn't the path?
Because I felt like I was suffocating and drowning every day when I got up.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through the motions and doing the things in my life. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and I'm not poo-pooing being a stay-at-home mom. It was incredibly fulfilling, but that's not what I came here to do, forever.
Yeah.
And so it set me free from what I felt like was that my soul was withering and dying. And I just didn't have energy. I would get up and do the things I needed to do and take care of, my son, get him to school, take care of the dog, clean the house, cook the meals, be the supportive wife. My husband at the time was in the military, all those things. And I did them, but on the inside, I was crumbling and dying. And so after I had this experience, I realized that whole world that opened up to me, that was the world where I belonged. And I started having those other people and things that were not aligned fall away. My marriage fell away. That whole way of my being fell away. And it was what was necessary for me to rise up and start the journey of who I came here to be, not who I thought I should be, and do the things that I thought or that others thought I should do.
Yeah.
And it was
hard. It was hard. It was hard, but we go through it because we're driven to serve, right? There's just this calling that at some point we just need to follow. And once you start doing that, there's really a point of no return. And when you can tap into that passion, then it just propels you to move forward and you realize just how multi-passionate we all are. Myself included, and many of the guests that I've interviewed on this show all talk about all of these different things they've taken on. They're certified in multiple things. They're an author, they're a speaker, they're a coach, they're a parent, they're all of their previous lives. They come with so much, and it's basically we are multisensory beings living these multidimensional lives where we do get to experience such an expansive range of our skills and abilities, but then we really get to hone in on our potency as well. And that's really where I see passion. When you break up the word, it's pass I on. Your I being your soul's expression of what you're here to pass on in this lifetime. And when I hear you talk about, kind of your life prior to Dolly, that your soul wasn't really being fed at all, right? It was actually sucking the energy out of your soul. There was no passion. It was just the autopilot, the day-to-day activities of going through one thing next, really just survival, And I've really been thinking, I've been noticing this a lot lately. We talk about newborns having that failure to thrive, where they're just not coming to the kind of level of functioning that they need to have. And I feel like on some level, many of us have come to that place of failure to thrive. We're certainly seeing that in humanity. We see that in the animal world and in the plant world as well, where some plants and animals just don't do as well. The conditions have changed in the way that we're able to live optimally and live well. They've really changed, and it's almost leaning us towards this idea of failing to thrive. But then we can also root down and rise, in the right conditions. We need to create those right conditions. Like you said, all of those things fell away. to give rise to your future, the conditions that would support you and help you to thrive. So I love hearing about these kind of stories and what you just shared. So thank you so much for that. And I want to hear a little bit more about like this interspecies communication, because that's really exciting for me. And what kind of messages that you're feeling called to serve now in this way of being in your life at the moment?
Okay, so are you asking
All the
uh,
questions.
how I got started, in the animal communication piece?
I'm interested in the interspecies communication. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
So, and for those of you who might not be aware, that's like the new term for animal communication, and we're broadening it. So I'll use them interchangeably, and they can be used interchangeably, but we're using the word interspecies communicate or intuitive interspecies communication because we can communicate with so much more than just animals. We can communicate with plants. We can communicate with the ocean. We can communicate with Mother Earth, with the rocks and the trees and everybody who lives on and around our planet, on and around all the stuff. So, also referred to as non-humans. That's what the Native Americans will call the no voice or the non-humans. So, just wanted to clarify that. And I got started on my path when I was in a class called Healing Touch for Animals. So it's energy medicine work for animals. And one of my classmates was telling stories about her adventures as an animal communicator. And something inside me, my intuition, was just pulling me towards this. And I said, I need to know how to do this. And she got me in contact with her instructor who held classes in her home. She was an attorney by day, and she did this on the weekends.
Hmm.
And she said, just keep this between us when we had classes there. She's like, my colleagues don't know. And, I don't want it to hurt, my business. And which is sad that that it had to be that way, but that's how she felt most comfortable. So she taught us in her home, and I became certified after we had our 3 levels of classes. And what really drove me to want to become an animal communicator, really at my heart, was again a dog. She was my animal companion this time, and her name is Sweetie. She was my husband at the time's and I first dog, and as adults together, even before we were married, years before we were married. And she was very sick her whole life. And we ended up having to euthanize her when she was 11 years old. And that was back in, oh gosh, maybe 2008 or 2009. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't had any experience with Dolly, hadn't met her yet. And I really carried grief and, moreover than that, guilt, because I felt like we let Sweetie suffer in pain and discomfort without really knowing it, and didn't really help her soon enough. And I carried this guilt for years. And that's why I wanted to become an animal communicator once I learned you can communicate with animals who have crossed over the Rainbow Bridge. I was like, I have to be able to do that. I have to talk to Sweetie, and I have to ask her forgiveness. Mm. And so I was able to do that in class. And she said, there's nothing to forgive, of course, as the loving being that she is, but as all animals, when they're our animal companions, usually feel that way towards us. She said there was nothing to forgive, that we did the best we could with what we had at the time. Mm. And just to know that there was nothing to forgive, just years of guilt just melted away, and it just set me free in a whole new way. Again, it was like I was reborn again. And I want to share that with people. I want them to have that beautiful release, that freedom, if they have any pain over losing an animal. And even before it gets to that, before they lose an animal, I want to help them either by teaching them with my course or by being the animal communicator who works with their animals before anybody crosses over, before there's any issues, to help them understand their animals' needs and wants, and to help their animals understand them better.
Mm. Wow, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it's amazing the connection that people have with their animals, with their pets, and with each other. Sometimes I even prefer dealing with animals more than people, I will admit.
Guilty.
And with nature too. And I think that's just an empath's way, right? We tend to be more attuned to nature and the animals, and sometimes people too. And
Certain people.
people, yeah. And so when you talk about people, we talk about, like you went through a lot of different certifications, a lot of learning process in and outside of the classroom, so to speak. And I find that's true for a lot of people, that they feel like they need more training, before they get to somewhere. But then you also spoke about honing in and listening to your intuition, right? And developing that as well. And these courses, of course, help you do that. And certifications, of course, help you to build the business around that so you can share that with more people. I want to just touch on the fact about having everything inside of us already, and how we can be able to access that and emerge with that in the full expression of who we are. I know this is also one of the things that you're so passionate about and are on a mission to share. So let's hear a little bit more about that as well.
Okay, so something that just dropped in today, right before we got on our call, was that the intuition is the song of the soul.
Mhm.
And we don't, this is just, I channeled this. It's amazing. We don't even know that we are being taught by the universe to listen to our intuition. But what came to me was, if you think about it, we tune into radio stations, we flip through TV stations. And so I'd like to focus more on the radio station because it's about music. We know the process. And, this is back when we still listen to the radio. Not everybody does anymore, but even if you're looking for something on YouTube or, Spotify, any of those platforms, you go looking for a specific song or genre, or if you're looking for a radio station, you're looking for a frequency. And once you find it, you know that frequency and you stay there and you're like, oh, I love this song. I love it. And you receive what you're searching for from that music. And that is, I think, the universe training us on how to tune in to a frequency that brings us what we need, gives us the messages, the healing, whatever it is that we need to express ourselves in that moment. And I think it's the process is so similar when we're tuning into our intuition. We don't even know it, that it's so simple, that we can do it and we don't even know it already. So I just think it's so beautiful that it's just proof that we have everything we need already within us. We already know how to do it. We just don't know that we know.
Yeah, I guess it's just really trusting our ability to do that we have easy access to it, to trust it, even when our intuition doesn't necessarily make sense right away, to just have that trust to be able to follow it, and kind of just see what happens, even just being curious about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Curiosity will probably come before the trust. And we need to do it enough times, depending on who we are and what our circumstances are. We'll need to do it enough times, possibly years worth, of experiences where we do and don't listen. And we see what happens when we don't listen to that little voice. And then we see what happens when we do listen to it. And the more we start listening to it, the more we see that our life becomes easeful and things come to us that didn't happen in a way before, almost miraculously. And I think that's where we get the concept of miracles from, is that something that we didn't think could happen, it happens because we're aligned with it. And we have followed our intuition to bring us to that place where the miracles are. They don't come to us. I think we go to them. They're always there. We just arrive and are aligned with them.
I love that. So beautifully said, Dawn. And what also is beautiful is your music. And I mentioned earlier that I was listening to some of it just before we started this podcast. And I'm curious about that. Like, how does that become part of your life, and how do you get to share that with others?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm so excited. So the music that you listen to, the song Celestial Waters, is something that I created as a free gift for a summit that I was on about the ocean. And so it was for dolphin and ocean lovers. And so that particular song I created by channeling the energies of the dolphins and my friends, the star horses who live on the beaches in North Carolina. They're real. Dolphins are real and the star horses are real. They're the wild horses of the Outer Banks in Corral in North Carolina. And I channeled the energies of both of those because they're best friends. They work together and they live near each other. Fancy that. And so I channeled their energies into the music that I went out and searched and found and placed together and arranged in. So it creates this tapestry of energy and flow with the energy that the music brought. And I channeled the energy of the dolphins and the sound of the ocean. And so it's basically a co-creation with the universe of the beings that I channel and then the music that the universe leads me to. So that's how that song came about. And I have an entire album called Soulful Seasons, and I play it has 4 seasons worth of music on it. And right now we're in fall still. So I have fall as my free gift on my website. When you go to the music page, you can just listen to it all day long if you want to for free. You just stream it. And each season I change it. So I'll be doing winter, in about a month, putting that one up. And that came about because a friend of mine runs a workshop on attuning to your personal seasons, because we have our own seasons outside of just the planet. And so that came about because she said, I have these ideas for this workshop. Would you like to create the background music for the meditations for each season? Heck yeah, I would.
Wow.
And she
Amazing.
heard Celestial Waters and said, I'd like you to create this music for me. And I was like, awesome. So I channeled the energy of the seasons, sounds and instruments, and I put it together and, created that. So it's really just a co-creation between spirit, and it's another way that I channel, not just spoken words, because it's all instrumental. I don't sing or anything on it. It's instrumental. So and in my life, that is how I also channel energy. So healing comes through the hands and the heart. And when I create that music, that's the universe speaking through me.
Wow, incredible. And you're actually offering us that Celestial Waters track, right? And so we're going to have the link for that, everyone, just down in the show notes. So you can check down there for that. And there's something else that you were going to offer too. Do you want to share about that?
I don't remember what it was supposed to be. But what I would love to offer is I have a community where we're a community of heart-centered, curious badasses. And
I love it.
It's the Phoenix Rising community. So I would love to offer 2 weeks free trial, free trial membership into that. And so, I can give you the link. It's on my website. It just says Phoenix Rising Community. And you just go there, read about it, see, what's going on. And if it sounds like it's a good fit for you, and you can just jump in for 2 weeks and come play with us. I do community connect calls each week. We're going to have a workshop in there where I have you connect to nature, and I'm using that song, the Celestial Waters song, to help with the meditation. And each week or each month, I haven't quite gotten the frequency yet, we're going to have calls where I'm going to channel messages for anybody who's on the call. We can do dolphin energy healings as a group. There can be animal communication sessions as a group. All the kinds of things that I do, I can offer in that space. And so those are the kinds of things that we'll be doing.
Amazing. Okay, of course, we'll have that link in there for everyone too. And we've spoken a couple of times now about channeling. So I'm curious, Dawn, do you have any channeled messages that you'd like to share with the audience right now?
Well, I think the dolphins are definitely here.
Okay.
For sure. They're always with me, but they're in my necklace. They're over here. You were listening
Hey,
and they were
dolphins.
there. Yes. And today when I wrote my newsletter, They came through with the message. So I think that they look to reiterate their message because it's a really, really good one. So they want us to know that even if we cannot access the vibration of joy in the circumstances that we're in right in that moment, that it's okay. We can still have an experience of joy. And what they mean by that is joy, like love, is not an emotion. It's a state of being, and it's a frequency. It's a vibration. And all we have to do is align with it, and then we'll be there with it. Mm-hmm. So, and it's exactly what I was saying about miracles. And so they gave us an exercise where we have this intention that we set with the breath. So you wake up in the morning, they suggest when you wake up in the morning, just set the intention: with every breath I take and every exhale I make, may I breathe in joy and exhale joy. And if you can set that intention, there's nothing you have to do at all. You just set that intention, and then the universe takes care of the rest, because that's what it does. So you're able to align yourself with the vibration of joy and move throughout your day in that place of joy without even having to say, I need to feel joy, but I don't know how. Mm-hmm. It's okay, because you're surrounded by it. We're swimming in it and we're infused with it. And so when you can do that, when you're breathing it in, you're bringing joy into your body, and that raises your vibration up to that level. When you're exhaling it out, you're sharing it with the world. And the thing they said at the end of their message was, just imagine if a small percentage of the world did this every day, how different our world would look and feel.
Imagine. Yeah. Such a beautiful soul care practice, Dawn. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you, dolphins, for bringing that message through. Thank you. Thank you. And I do feel that soul care practices are so important. It's our spiritual hygiene. It's something that can be practiced every day for finding solace in everyday life. And I actually wrote a guide on that, and that is going to be in the show notes for everyone too. It's a soul care guide with some other suggestions as well to support you on your spiritual healing journey. So that'll be in the show notes. And Dawn, how would people get in touch with you to just be able to connect, explore some of your offerings?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I can go onto my website. I have a contact page there. It's Dawn Phoenix, just like my name is spelled, Phoenix. I know it sounds funny. The way it's spelled is not the way it looks. So dawnphoenix.org/contact. And there you can sign up to hop on a call with me, and you can just explore whatever you want. It gives you choices of what you'd like to talk to me about: my music, animal communication, just to have a chat and find out more about me, tell me more about you, anything.
I'm
open
to all of it. I love
all
that.
The things.
Yeah, all the things. I love you so much, and thank you so much for sharing with us today. I really appreciate you, Dawn.
I appreciate you too, Jennifer. Thank you so much for inviting me here on your show, and for doing what you do in the world to shine your beautiful, radiant light.
Oh, thank you. And I want to thank each and every one of you that have been watching and tuning in to Awaken and Ascend. Remember to subscribe and let us know what you thought of this episode. If you resonated with anything, if you had any questions at all, we'd be happy to answer them. We're always here for you. So feel free to use that comment section. And we'll see you again next week on Awaken and Ascend. Bye for now.